Welcome to War and Untold Stories. Here, we explore the hidden side of history and the shocking crimes that history tried to forget. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. In the quiet shadows of a sleeping city, a story of profound darkness was about to unfold. One that would challenge the very foundations of law enforcement and criminal psychology. In Milwaukee, during the summer of 1991, what began as a routine call would spiral into one of the most complex and disturbing criminal investigations in American history. This is not a story about the horrors committed, but a journey into the minds that sought to understand them and the system that struggled to deliver justice. Our story begins not with a crime, but with the aftermath. Detectives entered an ordinary apartment that concealed an extraordinary nightmare. Faced with an unprecedented scene, their first challenge was simply to process what they were seeing. The initial investigation was a painstaking effort in evidence collection. Every item, every corner of the apartment held a piece of a puzzle that investigators had to assemble. They documented everything with meticulous care, knowing that the integrity of the case depended on their precision. The scope of the crimes was staggering, and the Milwaukee Police Department quickly realized they were dealing with a case that would push their resources and expertise to the limit. As investigators worked to identify the victims and piece together the timeline, a parallel investigation began. One that ventured into the mind of the perpetrator himself, Jeffrey Dahmer. Who was this man, and what could possibly lead to such actions? Psychologists and criminologists were brought in to create a profile. They delved into his past, searching for clues in his childhood, his adolescence, and his early adult years. Dahmer was described by those who knew him as a loner, quiet, and withdrawn. From an early age, he exhibited troubling behaviors and a fascination with anatomy that grew more intense over time. His inner world was a landscape of profound isolation and disturbing fantasies. He struggled with social interactions and felt a deep sense of emptiness. Psychological analysis suggested a complex mix of personality disorders. Experts pointed to schizotypal personality traits, characterized by severe social anxiety and unconventional beliefs, alongside borderline personality features, which include emotional instability and a fear of abandonment. These conditions, however, do not explain his actions. They merely provide a clinical framework for understanding the severe psychological distress that shaped his life. He was not an evil caricature, but a deeply disturbed individual whose internal world became a terrifying reality for others. The challenge for forensic psychology was to unravel this complex tapestry of thought and motive, not to excuse his actions, but to comprehend them for the sake of prevention. Back at the police department, the investigation was a logistical marathon. The sheer volume of evidence required immense coordination. The case involved multiple jurisdictions and years of unsolved disappearances and homicides. Detectives had to revisit old files, re-interview witnesses, and connect dots that had been missed for over a decade. One of the most scrutinized aspects of the case was why Dahmer had evaded capture for so long. Questions arose about the police response to earlier incidents where they had direct contact with him. The historical context of the late 1980s and early 1990s is crucial. The relationship between law enforcement and marginalized communities was often fraught with mistrust. Several of Dahmer's victims were men of color and from the LGBTQ+ community. Activists and community leaders argued that their disappearances were not taken seriously enough, and that systemic biases may have contributed to the delayed investigation. This case forced a difficult conversation about police procedures, accountability, and the importance of treating every missing persons report with the same level of urgency and respect, regardless of their background. It became a catalyst for change, prompting police departments nationwide to re-evaluate their protocols and community engagement strategies. With a mountain of evidence and a confession from Dahmer himself, the case moved to the legal arena. The trial was not about guilt or innocence. Dahmer had confessed to the acts. Instead, the central question was his mental state. The legal proceedings hinged on the insanity defense. The prosecution and the defense presented two vastly different interpretations of Dahmer's psychological condition. The defense team argued that he was legally insane, driven by uncontrollable urges that he could not resist. They presented expert testimony from psychiatrists who claimed his mental illnesses were so severe that he was unable to appreciate the wrongfulness of his actions. They painted a picture of a man lost in a world of delusion, compelled by a force beyond his control. The prosecution, however, argued that Dahmer was sane, methodical, and fully aware of what he was doing. They highlighted the calculated nature of his crimes, the way he lured his victims, the steps he took to avoid detection, and his attempts to conceal his activities. Their experts testified that while he suffered from severe personality disorders, he did not meet the legal definition of insanity. He understood that his actions were wrong. He simply chose to commit them anyway. The jury was presented with hours of complex psychological testimony, and their task was to navigate the intricate legal standards for insanity. The courtroom became a theater for a debate on free will, mental illness, and moral responsibility. The trial captivated the nation. For weeks, the public followed the proceedings, grappling with the same questions as the jury. Courtroom sketches filled the television screens, depicting the stark and solemn atmosphere of the legal battle. Legal analysts debated every move, every testimony. The scales of justice, a symbol of balance and fairness, seemed to hang precariously as the two sides presented their arguments. Ultimately, the jury had to decide: was Jeffrey Dahmer a man so broken by mental illness that he was not responsible for his actions, or was he a calculating predator who knew right from wrong? In February 1992, the jury delivered its verdict. They found Jeffrey Dahmer to be legally sane at the time of the murders. He was subsequently sentenced to multiple life terms in prison, ensuring he would never be free again. But the story didn't end there. The case left an indelible mark on the American criminal justice system. It spurred significant reforms in how law enforcement investigates serial crimes and handles missing persons cases, particularly those from vulnerable communities. It also highlighted the complexities of the insanity defense and fueled public debate about its application. The Dahmer case became a touchstone in criminology and forensic psychology textbooks. It serves as a case study on the importance of interagency communication, the need for better police training on cultural sensitivity, and the critical role of psychological profiling in understanding criminal behavior. The tragedy of the victims and the pain of their families left a permanent scar on the community of Milwaukee and beyond. Their loss served as a powerful reminder of the human cost of such crimes and the critical importance of a justice system that is both effective and equitable. Looking back, the case is a sobering lesson in the darkness that can exist within a human mind and the societal failures that can allow it to flourish. It forces us to confront difficult questions about mental health, prejudice, and justice. The legacy of this investigation is not in the notoriety of the perpetrator, but in the lessons learned and the changes implemented to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. It's a reminder that behind every case file and every headline are real people, and the pursuit of justice is a constant, evolving journey toward a safer and more compassionate society. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the history of criminal justice.